Hey, what is up, nature freaks?
What's going on?
Dave and Jeremy in the studio again, and today we're going to be highlighting some really cool snake species in the genus Pituophis, which include the gopher snakes, the pine snakes, and the bull snakes. They are among the largest and loudest of the colubrids in North America.
Yeah, these are super cool snakes. Not only in captivity do they make good snakes and pets, but in the wild, they're really cool to find. Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
So what do you call it if you take a pine snake and you stick it under your arm?
I don't know what.
An arm Pituophis.
I pity the fool who laughs at that joke.
All right, I think we're ready to see the snakes. You guys ready to see the snakes?
Let's go get some Pituophis.
Nature in your face. All right, guys, here are the snakes. So I have the gopher snake, the Sonoran gopher snake in my hands right here. Beautiful specimen. I mean, check out these reds and yellows. I mean, this is a gorgeous snake right here. And then Dave?
Yep, I have the bull snake. And this one is also a reddish color. Normally, they have a two-toned color. They're very light by the tail, and they're darker up from the neck down to about the middle of the body. But it's hard to see in this example because of this reddish color that it has. Just an unusual color morph.
Yeah, that one's really pretty, definitely exceptional. We haven't highlighted anything like that in our other videos, so because we haven't found one in the wild like that. This one's a captive one. And then the snake that was sitting still until we decided to record is the northern pine right here on the table. So I do not have names. We haven't named the other two snakes, but this one goes to shows. This one is an educational ambassador animal, and this is Sap. All right, he's the pine snake. His name is Sap, like pine sap. I know it's the coolest name you've ever heard. That's fine.
Yep, and check out their size. You really don't get to appreciate it unless we stretch them out. But as I was mentioning earlier, these are among the largest colubrids in North America. These bull snakes can get upwards of 7 feet, and they can take down prey items as large as a rabbit.
Rabbit.
They are impressive snakes, not only with their size, but also with their threat display, which is among the craziest, wouldn't you say, of all snake species.
Yeah, I would say for a non-venomous snake, they have probably one of the quote-unquote scariest, if you will, threat displays. And that is the intent of the threat display, is to seem scary, seem big and bad, and for you to leave it alone, or a would-be predator in their case.
But you know what's kind of sad about their threat display is that same threat display, as Jeremy mentioned, which protects them from predators in the wild, often leads to them being killed, because people who know nothing about snakes and they find a snake like this in their yard and it's buzzing and it's hissing, what are you going to think? You're going to think it's a very dangerous snake. You might even mistake it for a rattlesnake. You're going to run into the shed, you're going to grab the shovel, and you're going to kill it. So it's kind of weird that the things that protect it from predators are the same things that kill it.
You just realized you had both now.
Yeah,
we didn't talk about that. So if you were to see a bull snake, especially, or gopher snake, I mean, I've been in Arizona, we've been in Arizona hiking, and I have seen a huge gopher snake stretched out across the trail. And I thought it was a rattlesnake, and I go up there expecting to see a big rattlesnake. No, turns out it's just a super cool looking gopher. And that's because their pattern on their back, it does resemble some species of rattlesnake out there, and their heavy bodies, which is typically going to be the pit viper. But
look, to even compound it further, you got the stripes on the tail,
the banding on the tail,
which can be mistaken for a rattle. And when they vibrate that tail, it is loud.
I'll show you guys right here close. And they vibrate their tail. Several species of snakes do this, including rat snakes and fox snakes, and they'll vibrate that tail, and it makes a buzzing sound. And obviously, to anyone who is familiar with snakes, you're going to know right away it's not a rattlesnake. But it does trick people, like Dave was saying, and it could cause their demise. So doesn't always work out.
Right.
Now the hiss. Let's talk about the hiss. If you've never heard one of these snakes hiss,
one of the loudest audible noises a reptile can make outside of maybe a crocodilian or a large monitor. It is loud.
You will not forget it. Yeah.
Right. But they're not dangerous. It's all bluff. Can they bite? Yes. But if a bull snake or a gopher snake or a pine snake bit you, it would be minor irritation. It would be a strike and release. It would not hurt you, would not require any real medical care. You just wash your hands, you're good to go.
They're safer than Chihuahuas. Let's just put it that way.
Definitely.
Okay, you're more likely to get bit by a Chihuahua than one of the Pituophis genuses. Now, the hiss, the reason it is so loud, this is actually a unique characteristic for this genus, the Pituophis. So all of these snakes can do it, the gophers, the pines, and the bull snakes, which are just a subspecies of the gopher. They have a special glottis, and the glottis is what they breathe through. If you've ever seen a video, one of our videos of the snakes eating, it's like this little snorkel that comes out and they breathe, and that allows them to completely fill their throat with food and still breathe. But theirs is thinner and it's more elongated, and so it allows them to let out a super loud, overly audible hiss. So yeah, I mean, they're modified to be loud, basically.
The reason you're not hearing them hiss now is because obviously these are captive animals. They're very used to us, so they do not feel the need. They're not threatened by us, so they don't feel the need to do that same threat display that they would otherwise use in the wild. So they actually make great pets. They chill out. All three of these, none of them are biting. They're all getting along with one another, although we don't keep them together. In fact, speaking of keeping them together, it's amazing the variety of habitats that these snakes live in the wild. You can find the bull snake in sand prairies. At the same time, like Jeremy mentioned earlier, we can find them in the middle of the Sonoran Desert in super hot, harsh environments. The pine snake gets its name. It lives in pine forests. So this is one of the most highly adaptable snakes in North America. So that's what makes them such good pets, because obviously out in the wild, they use all these different habitats. You just kind of have to know the location of the animal that you have in captivity, where it's from, and set it up just like its wild environment, maybe a little micro habitat, and you're good to go. They can live nice long lives, right?
Yeah, you know, it's funny to point that out, because in the reptile hobby, pine has been like, no, you do not put pine in there. It's a death sentence to your snakes. But now we're finding out recently it's not necessarily the case. It's not going to affect the snakes like they think it did, because it's all kiln dried. All right, it's not aromatic pine. It's all been dried out, you know, and the pine snakes literally have the name pine there. They live amongst pine needles, you know, tree bark, branches that are not dried out and are very aromatic. Now, obviously, it's open air situation, but the pine doesn't bother them in the wild, and they love to get in those pine needles, and, you know, even in the sticky sap. It does not affect these snakes at all. So they can be found on pine, and you can even keep them on pine. We don't. We use aspen or more natural. A lot of them have bio habitats, so their poo-poo is just getting eaten by the bugs, which is fun.
Let's talk a little bit about their diet.
You know, you want to do diet?
Yeah, let's do diet. Diet of these snakes, mainly mammals.
What's going on over here?
I know, they're a little crazy.
Here we go.
Yeah, you want to take that?
I'm gonna take, yeah.
You can,
while you chat.
While I chat. All right. So in captivity, you're mainly going to feed them your rats, your mice, depending on the size of the snake. But we have a good friend that he told me a story once, true story, of course, that he was walking along a trail in a sand prairie not far from where our studio is, and he witnessed what he believes to be a bull snake that was between 7 and 8 feet chase down a rabbit, grab it, and kill it. So that's pretty impressive to be able to eat a meal that large. So they are awesome at rodent control. So farmers love these snakes. They're not going to bother these snakes because they know they control a lot of those rodents that would otherwise eat some of the food on the farms, or being grown on the farms, or getting into their barns. So they're very useful and helpful animals. So despite that threat display, if you know it's a bull or a pine or a gopher snake, don't kill it.
Smacked in the face by a snake here. So remember we were just talking about, you were talking about their habitat and where they can be found at. Let's get some, we're going to get some close-up shots of these snakes, but let's look at the different color of these snakes. I want to do the pine snake first, Dave, if you can. If you look at the, obviously the belly.
We'll put this guy down here.
Is very white, and a lot of the pine is found in sandy pine. If you look at this white, if you've ever been to Florida or even in the northwest, you can find northeast. Excuse me. You can find these sandy pine areas, and that helps to blend in there. But if you look at the top of the snake, this is crazy. I hope we can get this when we get the close-ups. But it's tan. There's a lot of light brown in there, but then there's a lot of kind of reddish orange on the scales, which is almost the rustic color of pine needles. So it's crazy how they have these little accents, almost like they've been, painted to perfectly blend into their environment.
Yeah, that's more to hide from the things that they eat, because when they get 6 feet or bigger, there are not many predators that will take down. Not even a bird of prey will mess with a very large pine gopher or bull snake. They're just too big for them to handle. They're very capable of defending themselves.
There's a video on YouTube where there's a species of hawk who has, I believe it's a bull or gopher. I don't know where the location is, but the bull or gopher is constricting the hawk on the side of after the hawk grabbed it, and then it got constricted by it, and they're just both laying there like, which one's going to die first, So
well, there you go. There's your proof.
Exactly. You do not want to mess with one of these guys. You get the bull, you mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Horns, right?
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, speaking of that, I believe the bull snake got its name because it sounds like a snorting bull with that hiss, which is really weird, because I don't know if I would correlate those two together, would you?
No, I don't think so. But then there's the bullfrog. Anything that's just like big, bad, and doesn't back down or aggressive, seeming, they compare it to bulls. And we were just talking about the other day that all these reptiles are named after mammals. It is super weird,
Rat snake.
Fox snake. You got the tiger rattlesnake. It's like, why don't we name some mammals after the reptiles, okay? Yeah.
I can't think of a single example.
I can't either. No, they're the second biggest group of vertebrates on the planet, and they're named after a group of animals that are like a third of their size, so population-wise.
This thing is probably as long as the table. It's longer than the table. What is this, a 5-foot table?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. So there's still not full grown.
Definitely not 6-foot table.
No.
No, yeah. The gopher snake is, I don't even think it's 3 years old yet. Maybe 3 years old on the gopher right here on top. And this is a pretty big snake already. If you stretch that out.
They hatch, they're small. They're
Look at that. So, whoa.
You can kind of see what I was talking about earlier, the darker colors up here, and then it just fades to that lighter color.
Definitely. And this one is a Christmas mountain location. So that's a mountain range in Texas, which is near Mexico. And that's what this guy was, not wild caught, but that's the lineage that it comes from. Because it was a baby when I got it.
They do it.
I don't know if you guys can hear. Every once in a while, they are letting off like a little shh.
Yep. Shh. Like, am I going to get bit?
Yeah, they're all just kind of like just talking to you, which we just ignore. It's not a big deal. They're just kind of, letting you know, hey, I'm a little nervous. They're not used to the lights and sitting at the table.
Well, two of the three of them, we don't really even bring to shows.
2 of the 3 of them don't get handled as much. They have been handled before, obviously, or this would be a completely different video. One of us could be bleeding at some point. But the pine snake, yeah, this is definitely educational animal. Now, let's talk about the face. They have a unique face design. They have an enlarged rostral scale. So that's the scale, right in the front of the face that they would use to push with, basically. It almost makes them look angry. They're kind of derpy with their extended pointy face.
Yeah, it is weird.
But when you look at a Pituophis species, they almost always kind of look ticked off.
Yeah, their eyes and their nose, it makes them look like they're very angry when they're standing.
Like they're just looking at you like, I will jack you up. All right? You do not want some of this, right?
Yeah, which just further, exaggerates the myth of them being dangerous. And that goes for any snake. Even rattlesnakes, a lot of venomous snakes they just look mean, but they have no expression really at all. Whether they're content or angry, the expression doesn't change on a snake. It's just too bad that people.
Oh, I don't know. Like with this species, this genus,
the lip curl.
They curl their lip.
Yeah, I forgot about the lip curl. But in general, if you just look at them, that expression doesn't change no matter what their mood, unless they're, like you said, defending themselves from a potential threat.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about that. A lot of times you can tell by the way someone holds their mouth, their facial expressions, how they're feeling, what their mood is. And these guys literally will curl their lips. They curl their mouth in like this when they're hissing, and they stick their tongue out. The mouth is open, just like. It looks just like that. So,
Elvis has left the building.
Yeah, they they look pretty ticked off, for use of a better word there.
Right.
And they will. I mean, they're not overly prone to bite, but that doesn't mean if you snatch one of these guys up in the wild that they're not going to bite you. Obviously, any snake that you approach, they don't know that you're not trying to kill them, that you're not some weird naked featherless bird that's about to end their life. So they're going to put on a threat display. They're going to defend themselves, and that's kind of the term we like to use. Snakes are more defensive, not aggressive, so because they're not going to go after you if they think you're not messing with them. And a lot of times, if you do think that a snake is coming toward you or randomly being aggressive, you forget you're a giant. You could be near its home. It could be securing a meal, and it doesn't know that you're not coming to take that. So we just think very differently compared to how the animals see us.
I've even had on several occasions large bull snakes hit me, but never open their mouth. They just bump you.
It's like a head, like,
that's exactly what it is. And I actually had one incident where I was trying to get close to one while it was hissing with my phone, and it knocked my cell phone out of my hand. It was crazy. So
just Bruce Lee that.
They're powerful. It did. It literally knocked the camera. I think I showed you that video.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll attach that to here too, because it was kind of funny. But yeah, big, powerful, awesome snakes.
So, you know what? It just reminded me as I'm, caressing
your
the
snake.
back of the snake.
A little weird.
They have highly keeled scales,
Yes.
and that's one of the unique characteristics too.
Keeled meaning it looks like it's almost folded over.
Right, like it's been creased, like every scale's been creased, and we'll get some really detailed shots of that, and we can show you. But what's cool is when I take these to show people, and I can tell them, touch this snake. This is what a rattlesnake feels like, because most people do not handle rattlesnakes.
It's normal.
Because if you don't know what you're doing, it's not smart to do. But rattlesnakes have very, very keeled scales, and they just feel really cool, in my opinion. So I like to let people touch this and be like, hey, now you know what a rattlesnake feels like. But it's not smooth. It's not overly smooth. If you run across, it's actually pretty rough.
Yep.
And a lot of them will rub their scales. They can rub their scales together, create different sounds, just to make them more intimidating if they feel threatened. I got a snake weave here. They've woven themselves into a braid. I could just slap this on the back of my head. Hello, everybody.
You want me to grab one of them?
If you want to play. You're going.
There we go.
You got the species and subspecies going on here.
Mm-hmm.
The dueling dragons.
Yep.
That's okay. Me and Sappy are best buds anyway. So as captive snakes, they make excellent pets. And what's cool about it is, if you are sick of seeing ball pythons, which I think ball pythons are really cool. I think they make great pets, and that's why they're so popular. But if you're like me and you go to the reptile show and you just want to avoid the infinite tables of ball pythons, and you're into the colubrids, all right? I mean, this is a really cool species to get into because they do get big. So if you don't want to go large python, but you want a snake that's impressive in size, this is definitely one of those snakes for you. And as far as eating in captivity, never had an issue.
Right.
Most of these do not even constrict anymore. They just take the food, and then they swallow it right in front of your face, and then look at you like, keep bringing it. All right? Yeah, just like if you're giving a 3-year-old, a munchkin donut, they're just going to shove the whole thing in their mouth and be like, meh, meh. That's what the snake is like.
Okay, speaking of eating, and actually the way I'm holding him reminded me of something that I read, which is fairly interesting. The gopher snake, for whatever reason, they're often found, well, I shouldn't say often, but they're occasionally found with 2 heads. It's one of the snakes that's most often found with 2 heads, so a 2-headed snake. It's very uncommon in any snake species, but for some reason it's rather prolific. Scientists have no idea why, but I just thought that was interesting. And it's really cool because they actually, each head can eat independently. So
I was just going to say, the whole saying 2 heads are better than 1, that is not the case when those 2 heads are attached to the same body. That is never an advantage because unfortunately, you got 2 brains controlling 1 body, and they have the hard time making a decision which way to go. Yeah. They're both picking up scents with their tongues, So usually they don't survive. That's why you see them in captivity, fully grown. They could though. Snakes are highly adaptable animals and extremely underrated. That's what I don't get. I don't understand why people do not appreciate snakes more. I get there's fear out there. You don't know what's dangerous and what's not. But if you just simple research in your area, you can find out if, I don't even have venomous snakes in my area. I don't even need to be concerned. And then you get out and you start to admire these species that move without arms and legs incredibly well. All right. Super accurate sense of smell, good eyesight. They can climb remarkably. It kind of blows me away that people do not have more appreciation for these animals. Like, we're not the weirdos here.
Right. And the more you understand the snake, the more you know about them, obviously, the less fear you're going to have. If people knew what we knew about any snakes, not just these snakes in particular, I don't think you would ever fear a snake. Of course, if you're in an area where there are venomous snakes, you do have to be cautious where you step. But for the most part, if you do that, you'll never, I always tell people, I've said this many times, probably even on other videos, the only real way to get bit by a snake is if you deliberately pick it up or accidentally step on it. So if you're watching where you're walking, even if you live in an area where there are venomous snakes, you're not going to have to worry about them.
Yeah, and as far as stepping on, that's not even guaranteed. We've met plenty of joggers.
Just last, 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago, we're in Arizona. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. A lady was jogging at night with no light, and she had her phone, and she stepped on something.
One of the most aggressive snakes that you
turned around, or defensive. We got defensive.
I hate that word.
PC. We're PC. Yes. Snake PC.
Yeah.
So she stepped on a rattlesnake. Didn't know what it was. Turned around, hit a light on it, and then what species was it?
It was a Western Diamondback.
It was a Western Diamondback, which the Western Diamondback is kind of like
to be the most dangerous. So that's probably why I mistakenly said aggressive.
They're hot-headed. They are hot-headed. If you mess with them, they're not just going to try and slither off. They will turn, rattle, and rear up, and put on a very good display as well.
That even surprised me that she didn't get bit, though.
And in the defense of the defensiveness of the snake, when we run into a Western Diamondback, we don't just pass it right by. The jogger, we're like, can I snuggle with you? And it's like, no, back up off me. What are you doing?
Right.
So a completely different interaction when we see a snake.
Right. Yeah, you know what? That reminds me. These snakes are pretty easy to find due to the fact that even if you don't see them first, they make noise, which makes it pretty easy for us to locate them and photograph them. I've been walking in the sand prairie and I'll just hear, I'll look back, whoa, there's a giant bull snake just sitting there. If he wouldn't have made any noise, I probably would have never even seen him. I would have walked right by. So they're like rattlesnakes in that regard. Sometimes rattlesnakes do that too. They'll either just sit there and not make any noise, or they'll just blow it up when you're 20 yards away from them. Oh, this guy just musked me for whatever reason.
It could be because I was going to say, I don't think they're appreciating being next to each other like that. I keep seeing them trying to pull apart.
This is just easier for me to hold them.
Yeah, I think they're not used to each other, so they're kind of, oh, look at this one.
Oh, yeah.
He had his mouth open for a minute.
Did he really?
Yeah, here, let me take this from you so he doesn't get so angry.
Which one? The red one did that?
The bull snake, yeah.
Oh, wow.
He was starting to lip curl a little bit. He was starting to get a little pouty lip, like.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I can hear. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it stinks, doesn't it?
That stinks. That lit the studio up.
Well, on that note, I think maybe we should end it.
Ooh, oh my goodness. Right? Get your hand away from me.
Oh, there he goes. He's opening it again.
Oh yeah. He's not getting happy here. Yeah, I think it's been a little long for him. He needs a break. He needs a safe place to go hide. So.
All right, well, we hope you guys enjoyed our little highlight of these really cool Pituophis snakes. If you guys liked this video, of course, as always, we would ask you to subscribe to our channel, like the video, make a comment.
Make a comment! We'd like to talk to you guys. Let us know if you keep the Pituophis, if you found one in the wild, if a bull snake
in his mouth, like, what the heck?
Ever made you pee yourself from their hiss and lip curl. Yeah, you're okay. You're okay. Calm down. We're all friends here.
All right, guys, we'll see you guys on the next episode of Nature in Your Face.
See ya!